Happy Wednesday. Welcome into the Lindsey Beckham Show. I hope everybody is having a fabulous hump day halfway through the week out there. We're live here in the WYAB studios. We are also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and X, as well as WYAB.com. And as always, your FM radio dial 1039. I'll tell you what, Chip was in before me. He filled in for Andrew Gosser. Chip, if you're listening, we're going to need to check on your blood. I'm not sure if it's thinning in your old age, but you have got this studio hot. It is blazing up in here. I looked at the air, it was on 76. My goodness. It is hot outside again today, not as hot as it has been. But of course, if you are dealing with the heat wave, or not dealing with it, I should say, if you're having any problems dealing with it, well, Pure Air Consultants is who you need to call. You can find them at mypureairconsultants.com. They'll get you all fixed up because ain't nobody got time to deal with this heat. I can tell you that. So Chip, let's get you to the doctor. Let's check your blood. Make sure it's not too thin. Something's going on. It's hot up in here, but it is cooling off now. I gotta say, if I ever snap and just completely lose it, it's a miracle that hasn't already happened. But if I do, will somebody please promise me that you will hire Kevin Reddington as my defense attorney? Oh, that man is brilliant. I'll tell you what. Regardless of your thoughts on Lindsay Clancy and the crime that was committed, the death of her 3 small children, or the murder, I should say, she did murder her children. Kevin Reddington, he is defense attorney extraordinaire. I'm highly impressed with a man at his age being able to pull out all the stops. There's always, every single day, there's a new magic trick up his sleeve, a new rabbit that he pulls out of his hat. He's incredible. This trial should be studied, in my opinion, in law schools across the country. He's phenomenal. As always, we're going to start the show off with our Liberty quote of the day, our Madison Minute, as I like to call it, from Live in Liberty Daily. This is the quote for August 26th that comes from John Adams from Thoughts on Government in 1776. He said this: "As good government is an empire of laws, how shall your laws be made? In a large society, an extensive country, it is impossible that the whole should assemble to make laws. The first necessary step, then, is to depute power from the many to a few of the most wise and good. The principal difficulty lies, and the greatest care should be employed in constituting this representative assembly. It should be in miniature an exact portrait of the people at large. It should think, feel, reason, and act like them." Now, I got to say, in reading that, I think that gives quite the argument when it comes to the redistricting shenanigans and the district lines drawn based on race. When you look at Mississippi as a whole, most people would consider Mississippi to be a conservative, super Republican majority, very red state. Now, unfortunately, I don't truly believe that's the case. I think we're a lot more purple than people would like to admit, but I don't think that's because of Democrats. I think that has a lot to do with rhino Republicans. But when you look at the majority of Mississippians, then shouldn't the ones elected to represent us think, feel, and reason like the majority of Mississippians? Food for thought there. course, my opinion has always been everybody has the right to vote. In fact, it's our civic duty to get out and make our voices heard in order to elect the best representatives possible to send to the Capitol building or to send to our city council or to send to our county's board of supervisors. It's our responsibility. It's a right, but also a responsibility and a privilege that we have that right. So everybody should be exercising their right to vote. And again, my thought process is that when we draw lines in a way that gives any majority or minority more power over their neighbors, that's racism. That right there, to me, is the definition of racism. The BVAP should not come into play when drawing district lines. Now, I understand that for a long time, things weren't fair, things weren't equal, not across the country and not in the South. But we have come so far from that time period to today. We have made so many advancements. And to be honest, I think it is downright disgusting to draw lines in order to get someone of a certain minority or certain color elected within a certain district. I think you're playing with fire when you do that. And so I stand with the Republican Party, who believes that our congressional district 2 here in the state of Mississippi should be redrawn. It should be done in a fair way according to population and landmass. Cut the state up equally. Let the chips fall where they may. Let the people's voices be heard, truly be heard. Instead of maneuvering it in a way that a certain person of a certain political party or a certain color has the upper hand or the advantage. I just don't see how anybody can argue with that at all. I think that's what we should all strive for, equality. Now, when they throw that word equity into certain scenarios, such as DEI, in my opinion, they take it and make what was meant to be a positive, uplifting word and make it one that seems downright dirty. Because I think that's what they do when they employ these DEI tactics and measures, is to change a situation, much like District 2, the Congressional District 2 here in Mississippi, in order to say, now we are making equity possible, when in fact you're doing exactly the opposite. When you give a job to a minority over someone in the majority who's more qualified, that is blatant racism. Just because it's like they want to call it reverse racism doesn't make it not racism. Racism works both ways, even though so many people want to bury their head and pretend like that doesn't exist. It absolutely does. Absolutely does. This is the biggest problem I have with critical race theory. so many educators, and I'm not putting this on the teachers here in Mississippi. That's not what I'm saying. They have very limited choices when it comes to which curriculum they can access and put into our schools. But when we are wanting to teach children that if you were born a certain way or a certain color, that you will never be as good as somebody else. And then when we teach children that if you were born a certain way or a certain color, that you're always going to be the evil one, the oppressor, doing the oppressing of the minority, those are lies. Those are downright lies. And what's sad is that so many have bought into those lies, which is why I believe we see the chaos that we're seeing over in Ocean Springs with the Nolan Wells case. You put a picture out there, you hire Ben Crump, you start making this about civil rights, and here's a picture of one black boy with 3 or 4 white boys, and all of a sudden you have stirred up a storm, race baiting the public. And so much of this public has been brainwashed into believing there are two groups, the oppressed and the oppressors, and it will always be that way. Well, I just call BS on that. I don't believe that. I don't see that in my daily life. And I honestly don't believe anyone who says that they do. It's time to stop playing the victim when we all have the same rights and opportunities here in the United States of America, land of the free. Many people lost their lives for the rights that we all have here today. So exercise your rights, let your voice be heard. If you don't like something, change it. It's not that difficult. I might be saying, I might have a little bit different story when the next legislative session comes up and I'm trying to get my agenda pushed through or the bills that I want to pass pushed through. I mean, it's not simple. It's not simple to have something become law or stop a bad piece of legislation from becoming law, but that's why you've got to be active. And if I can do it, so can you. If I can research, contact legislators about something that's important to me, find someone who will drop a bill concerning that issue, follow that bill all the way through the legislative process, contact the committee members of whatever committee the bill is assigned to. If I can do it, you can too. You don't get to just sit back and complain or say things aren't fair anymore. We all have the same opportunities. And guess what? Life's not always fair. But I'll tell you, life can change quickly when you change that word victim into victory. And when you speak that word over your story and over your life and over your situation. I can promise you there have been times in my life that I have struggled, still do, and feel like things aren't fair. If you lay around and wallow in that self-pity, crying over being such a victim, well, guess what? Nothing's ever going to get done. We got to take a break. Y'all stay with us. There's a lot I want to get to today. We're going to talk about Dolly, musical icon, very talented queen of country music, if you will. I may have a different opinion on Dolly than most people. May shock you a little bit. So y'all stay with us. This is the Lindsey Beckham Show. We're going to be right back here on 1039 WYAB.
1039 WYAB.
Hi, Kim Wade here. Hot weather requires us to run the AC nonstop. Pure Air Consultants can inspect your unit today to ensure your AC is operating at peak performance. Pure Air Consultants is your go-to Rheem partner that can get the job done and have you resting in comfort in no time. Locally owned and operated, they have proudly served our community for over 22 years. Contact Pure Air Consultants today at mypureairconsultants.com. Rheem and Pure Air Consultants to the rescue.
When it comes to protecting all the things that matter in your world, generations of folks in central Mississippi have trusted Allstate agent Mark Dwyron. Mark knows the right coverage with the right price, helps you feel secure and protected. For decades, Mark's been a trusted agent protecting you against mayhem that is unpredictable. And he's always just a moment away when you need him. Mark Dwyron. For auto, home, life, and more, you're in good hands with Allstate. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability.
Hello, friends and neighbors. This is David Frederick. I'm here to tell you about the latest development here at Frederick Sales and Service in Brandon. In an effort to always bring you the very best brands, I am proud to announce that Frederick Sales and Service is Central Mississippi's newest dealer for Skag zero-turn mowers and products. We have deals on one of the industry's best brands of zero-turn mowers, Skag. You can buy now and pay later because 0% financing is also available at Frederick's. Come see our inventory. We're here serving you for over 3 decades in Brandon since 1993.
Grill lovers already know about Grills of Mississippi, and so should you. Grills of Mississippi carries premium Weber grills, Yoder smokers, and outdoor kitchen accessories to take your backyard cooking to the next level. Whether you're a weekend griller or a serious pitmaster, Grills of Mississippi has the brands, the knowledge, and the service to help you do it right. Turn your backyard into the ultimate gathering spot. Visit grillsofms.com today. Grills of Mississippi, where great cooking starts. Venable Glass is your local glass expert. Offering residential, automotive, and commercial glass, Venable Glass can do it all. Windshield repair, replacement of shower doors, mirrors, and everything in between. What sets Venable Glass apart from the rest? Unmatched reliability and customer service. Don't forget, tell your insurance company that you want to use Venable Glass. And remember, you do have a choice. Let Venable Glass work hard to earn your business. Call Venable's Ridgeland or Brandon locations today for a free estimate or visit venableglass.com. It's road trip season again. Is your vehicle ready? Take your vehicle to Greens Tire and Auto on Ridgewood Road in Ridgeland to get it in tip-top shape before you head out of town. Don't get stranded while you're away from home. Preventative maintenance is their specialty at Greens Tire and Auto. And if your check engine light is already on, then Greens Tire and Auto can tell what's wrong and get it fixed. Before you start your road trip, take your car to Greens Tire and Auto, Ridgewood Road in Ridgeland.
How do you get the hell out of your life?
Get on your knees and cry out to the Lord. He hears you right where you are.
Oh, gosh. Jesus.
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 How do you get the hell out of your life?
He will love that hell out of you.
You trust in him, and you let him love the hell right out of you.
So how do you get the hell out of your life? Listen Saturday mornings at 7 and 7:30 on 103.9 WYAB or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back into the Lindsey Beckham Show. Again, we are live here in the WYAB studios, also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. You can call into the show today, 601-879-0002. You can also text in to the Lindsey Beckham Show text line, 601-879-4648, or join in the online chat, hear from all of the streams. So there are several things I want to get to today. I want to talk about this notion that public schools are unconstitutional. There was a Washington Post op-ed arguing this. A Nebraska court will soon decide if that's the case or not. They said the challenge to compulsory education combined with public school only funding could lead to universal school choice. Well, y'all know how I feel about universal school choice. All for it, 1,000,000%. So I want to get to that. Also want to talk about Dolly. First, I want to send out all the love and prayers for our friend Ashley, who listens to the show every day. Her mom was in a bad wreck or a bad accident last night and is in the ICU today. I know Ashley and I pick on each other. We follow along with all the true crime, and we've been kind of watching the Lindsey Clancy case together, sharing our thoughts and opinions on that. So all of our prayers and good thoughts out to Ashley and her mom today. Hated to hear that. Praying that there is complete healing there. And then, of course, as soon as I got off the air yesterday, my daughter actually called me from school, she and her teacher. I told y'all I have friends that are teachers that actually like me. I know none of y'all believed it, but to tell me the news about Dolly Parton. Very sad. I think one of the very first books my mom ever bought for me or ever read to me was written by Dolly Parton, Coat of Many Colors. Of course, she had a song that kind of went along with the book. Dolly grew up very poor, had many siblings. A lot of times they didn't have enough to eat. And then she became arguably one of the most famous icons in American history. Mr. Watley says, holy effing eyebrows. You get those crazy lashes on too. You look ridiculous. Thank you. Appreciate it. You don't have to look at me. You can click the little X. Poof, I'll be gone. But thank you for the engagement. Always helps. Appreciate it. So anyway, I said to my daughter, I said, you could have let me know this before I went off the air so that I could have talked about it. And I love what Dolly Parton did for country music. Again, arguably one of the greatest songs of all times, one of the biggest hits of my lifetime, I Will Always Love You. She recorded it, and then it was, of course, recorded by Whitney Houston, The Bodyguard. And then something else that Dolly did that I really respect and am thankful for is that she always gave back. And she gave back in a way to increase the amount of books that children had access to. And I think that was a very charitable cause, something that is needed. But she started the Imagination Library. Now, my oldest daughter was born in Alabama. At the time, Mississippi didn't have access. I think they just were opening it up to state by state as they attempted to get this program across the entire country. But what the Imagination Library did was send a free book to your home in the mail every single month. All you had to do was sign up after having a baby. A lot of times they would sign you up in the hospital after giving birth. I will never forget my oldest, she's now a senior, but her favorite book when she was little was one that came from Dolly Parton. And I mean, I read that book so many times. I could literally quote most of it to you today. Lullaby, lullaby, little one. Dinner is over and bedtime's begun. Good night to toys, good night to play. Say good night to a busy day. Splash-a-bye, splash-a-bye. Time to scrub fingers, elbows, and feet. Bubble, I can't remember all the words, but you get the point. I read the book a whole lot of times. Multiple times a night, I think. So I love that she had causes that she cared about. And now here's where my unpopular opinion is going to differ from a lot of you who think that Dolly could do no wrong. First of all, it should be a crime to look like that when you're 80. because she still looked good. One quote that she said that I used to requote her on back in my pageant days was, "The bigger the hair, the closer to God." And don't let anybody tell you your hair's too big, because you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. She was quite witty. And now she claimed she didn't like to get political, but we saw Dolly get political in certain situations. And this is my unpopular opinion here, that in recent years, she stood behind some things I can't get on board with. She stood behind the COVID vaccine, and I'm not here to say that that's what killed her. I think it's quite silly when some of us immediately want to point to the vaccine when someone dies if we have no information that that's accurate or not. Just like I think it's silly to say there was foul play involved when there's absolutely nothing to prove that. Christine Wansley. But Dolly supported the COVID vaccine. In fact, she put out a video message of her getting her vaccine, which again was an experimental mRNA, never used before, DNA altering sham, in my opinion. But she stood behind that. She encouraged people to go get vaccinated. And she fought for the trans agenda. And that's where I have the biggest problem. We cannot lie to people and affirm the lies they believe about themselves. This is a huge problem in this country, a huge problem. We've got to have the courage and the backbone to tell people the truth. That's why here at the Lindsey Beckham Show, we believe in protecting children, empowering parents, and standing for truth always, even if it hurts your feelings. Sometimes you got to have a little dose of reality. And telling a person, or telling especially a child, that they can morph into something other than their biological at birth sex is a downright lie. It's cruel. Ryan says, why hasn't the DOJ released the Epstein files? We're not talking about that today. Right now we're talking about Dolly Parton. And trust me, I had Dolly on blast all day yesterday. I was listening to Dolly Parton, some of the best country music out there. She will forever be an icon. And anybody her age that has the courage, the backbone to put on one of those Dallas Cowboy cheerleader uniforms, well, you got to applaud the woman for that right there. But I do disagree with what I would call political stances that she's made concerning the transgender ideology, the COVID vaccine, gender affirming care, gender identity, which again, we all know is not a thing. Like I love to say, 2 sexes, 0 genders, infinite personalities. So for those things, I can't get on board with her personal stances on a lot of issues. But again, always will be one of the greatest country music females of all time. We got to take a break. Y'all stay with us. I want to get to this question that's being talked about. Are public schools unconstitutional? It's making headlines. What do you think? Y'all stay with us. We're going to be right back here. 103.9 WYAB, The Lindsey Beckham Show.
102.9 WYAB.
Americans for Prosperity is Mississippi's and the country's leading grassroots organization dedicated to promoting economic freedom and personal liberty. Americans for Prosperity advocates for limited government, free market policies, and empowering individuals. When given freedom and opportunity, Americans are capable of extraordinary things. If you are ready to make a difference in our community and want to get involved, then visit americansforprosperity.org. Be a part of positive change at americansforprosperity.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
Hi, Kim Wade here. Hot weather requires us to run the AC nonstop. Pure Air Consultants can inspect your unit today to ensure your AC is operating at peak performance. Pure Air Consultants is your go-to Rheem partner that can get the job done and have you resting in comfort in no time. Locally owned and operated, they have proudly served our community for over 22 years. Contact Pure Air Consultants today at mypureairconsultants.com. Rheem and Pure Air Consultants to the rescue.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Massachusetts, prosecutors in the murder trial of Lindsey Clancy have rested their rebuttal case. The mother is charged with the killing of her 3 children, and defense attorneys argue she was suffering from postpartum psychosis. Closing arguments set to begin this week. At least 95 people are confirmed dead, more than 400 others missing following massive flash floods in Nepal, including 47 Americans. Here's ABC's Lama Hassan.
We spoke to a Nepalese tour company that confirmed 3 Americans are missing right now after a massive flash flood triggered a mudslide sweeping through parts of Nepal. The flood was so powerful, so destructive, it washed away everything in its path, villages and damaging roads. The flood hitting early on Wednesday morning, just north of Nepal's capital, Kathmandu.
The brewing trade war between the U.S. and Canada showing no signs of ending. Canada vowing retaliatory hikes on American goods starting in September to match U.S. 50% tariffs on Canadian goods. This is ABC News.
Come on down to Ascension. Come on in, Sunday worship 10 a.m. Amen. Jackson, Mississippi will sing with you. Pastor Christine sharing good news. Come on down to Ascension. Join the choir. Feel God's love lifting you higher. Ascension Lutheran Church, we're saving you a few.
Every night, thousands of Mississippians gather around the radio to follow the hottest team in baseball, the Atlanta Braves. And the voice leading the way, Madison's own Ben Ingram. Local roots, a winning team. If your business wants to connect with loyal, engaged listeners all season long, there's still time to become a Braves broadcast sponsor on WYAB. To learn more, email info@wyab.com. It costs a lot less than you think. That's info@wyab.com.
Running a business in Mississippi is challenging enough without worrying about payroll and HR compliance. At People Leased, we're local, and we understand Mississippi's tax laws, labor requirements, and your day-to-day challenges. Get friendly, expert support for payroll, HR, time and attendance, employee benefits, and compliance, all from a team right here in Mississippi. People Lease, local support, real solutions. Visit peoplelease.com today.
At Sunkissed Tan and Wellness on Highway 49 in Flora, we specialize in providing exclusive tanning services and premium beauty products tailored for women. Our mission at Sunkissed is to enhance your natural beauty, offer expert advice, and create a personalized experience. At Sunkissed Tan and Wellness, step into our oasis and let us illuminate your beauty. Ask about our membership program. Find us on Facebook at Sunkissed Tan and Wellness or online at sunkissedtanandwellness.org.
If you want the best health care, where do you go? The Mayo Clinic. If you want the best care for your vehicle, where do you go? Mayo Auto Clinic in Raymond. Mayo Auto Clinic does foreign and domestic vehicles and diesel repair. Mayo Auto Clinic has ASE certified techs with over 25 years of experience. You can extend the life of your car or truck when you take it to Mayo Auto Clinic. For cost-effective repairs and maintenance, go to the best, Mayo Auto Clinic. Open weekdays at 7 a.m. Highway 18 in Raymond.
From Jacksontown to the radio, this is the Lindsey Beckham Show.
Welcome back into the Lindsey Beckham Show. We're going to jump right into this next story I want to talk about. Are public schools unconstitutional? We've heard the argument that school choice is unconstitutional. But I think this is the first time we've heard this argument put this way. Jonna says, absolutely, our schools are unconstitutional. The woke crap has made our schools a nightmare for our children. I completely agree. And that's exactly what this case is about. It's going to address all of that. This is coming from Jeff Childers over at Coffee and COVID. If you don't get his emails, go sign up for his daily emails. He has a great way of breaking things down in a way that you can understand them. I'm going to skim through this and highlight it, but I don't know that I could put it in any better than the way he did. So again, this was the Washington Post headline, "Democracy is perpetually dying in darkness." An op-ed titled, "Are Public Schools Unconstitutional? A Nebraska Court Will Decide." The challenge to compulsory education combined with public school only funding could lead to universal school choice. So they didn't run this with the question mark next to the title, which is a lot of times applied as a disclaimer. They ran it straight on the opinion page with an illustration by their own art department. The byline is Corey DeAngelis. Y'all know Corey. He's a friend of mine. He's been on the show several times. He is hailed as the school choice evangelist, and he actually will be speaking again this October at the Moms for Liberty Annual Summit. Excited about that. He's also a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation and senior fellow at Americans for Fair Treatment. So the Washington Post has handed the top of its opinion page to a Heritage Fellow to argue that public schools violate the First Amendment. And they ran no counterpoint alongside it. My, how things have changed. I don't think you would have seen headlines like this in the Washington Post several years ago. So let's talk about what's in this lawsuit, what will happen to the country if it wins, why it could easily lose, and why it still matters. On August 13th, the New Civil Liberties Alliance filed Jacobson versus Spellerberg in Lancaster County District Court in Nebraska. Now, the plaintiffs are two different families in the Lincoln Public School District. There's the Jacobson family and the Minter family. The defendants are a nine-headed hydra of Nebraska agencies: the state treasurer, commissioner of education, president of the state board of education, attorney general, the Lancaster County treasurer, the president of the Lincoln School Board, the city of Lincoln, Lancaster County, and Lincoln Public Schools itself. The complaint was not coy. Paragraph 1 began, formal education occurs through speech. And these are no new players to federal lawsuits by any means. Some of the same people that won or that killed the Chevron Loper Bright case, along with the Garland v. Cargill, which was a Second Amendment bump stop case. A lot of you probably remember that. They're recent players before the Supreme Court bench, and repeat players for that matter. So it's a 34-page complaint that says a lot. Paragraph 78 alleges that Lincoln Public Schools produced a sticker endorsing alternative sexuality and transgendered ideologies that was displayed on many classroom doors. This wasn't just one rogue teacher, but an official all-district product. Then a school librarian recommended to one of the Minter kids some great books promoting transgender ideology. The Jacobson family alleges that one of their daughters was told she must accommodate biological males in the girls' bathroom and locker room, or she could simply remove herself from those spaces if the arrangement made her uncomfortable. Gag. That was their solution. And then there was paragraph 84. And Jeff Childers said, perhaps the worst of all, it made me ask myself just what in Hades is happening in Nebraska. One of the mentor's children became very forceful in suggesting that her parents reduce their driving because the school had successfully taught the child the idea that carbon dioxide was a pollutant that would destroy the planet. The government's education was motivating conduct through fear. Not only that, but the child was coached to take a hostile or disrespectful tone towards adults concerning this topic. So, in other words, a Nebraska elementary school taught a little girl that the family car was killing the planet. This is the part where the NCLA lawyers underlined in their complaint taught the little girl how to talk to her parents about it. Both of these families pulled their kids out. The Minners now homeschool their children. The Jacobsons homeschool one child, send two to a private elementary school, and still have one in Lincoln Public High School, which tells you that these are not homeschool zealots. They're people who tried the government product and disagreed with what they got. Now, the complaint's legal theory is simple enough that even when I can't explain it, should worry the state. Like most states, Nebraska requires you to educate your child. If you do not, you can get a Class 3 misdemeanor, which isn't exactly the death penalty, but includes up to a year in jail. Then Nebraska offers you more than $19,000 a year to provide the educating, but only if the child sits in a government building and hears the government lesson. Same here in Mississippi. You must educate your child. They'll give you $7,000 to do it, as long as you choose to allow the government to educate your child. If you prefer a different lesson, you can have one. You just have to pay for it yourself after you've already paid for the first one in your property taxes, right? This is what lawyers call an unconstitutional condition. You might call it the printer ink model of citizenship. The printer is free, but you have to use their ink cartridge. Well, these two Lincoln families over in Nebraska got tired of this arrangement, and they sued. They're not asking the judge to lock up the school and give the band uniforms to a charter. They are asking him to admit that a free education is only free, air quotes in the studio here, when you accept the official viewpoint. They also would like a check for the per pupil amount until the kids turn 19, which is a very polite way of saying you already collected the money. We would like the education it was collected for. If they win, Nebraska will have to stop pretending the public school is a public utility and start treating it like a restaurant. You may eat there. You may even like the dill fries. You just cannot be arrested for cooking at home, and you cannot be charged twice for the same Nashville hot wing chicken sandwich. If this educational earthquake strikes Nebraska, other states will notice. Teachers' unions will issue a statement saying this is the end of democracy. We'll hear from Nancy Loom. It's the end of the world, the way they do whenever the faculty lounge copier jams. Jeff is quite funny sometimes. Rural districts will say they cannot run a football team if the money can leave. That may be true. It is also how every other monopoly talks when the customers discover competition. Something called the free market. The free market works. Nebraska is a curious place for this war to break out. It is the state that once tried to ban the teaching of German and lost in the Supreme Court. 100 years later, they are in court again, not for banning a language, but for making the alternative so expensive that only a stubborn parent would try it. Now, the Washington Post reader comments were hysterical One said, the Heritage Foundation wants to destroy the public school system. Not true at all. Another reader said, the Post and Bezos have really gone overboard in bowing down to the right on these opinion pieces. So much for free speech. Another insisted that Republicans want the sort of freedom which undermines in a small way what binds us together into a nation, meaning, the taxes that bind. To say the lawsuit faces steep odds is an understatement. Now, there are several bad omens, several Supreme Court cases from the 1980s through 2020 that basically say while the government can't force you to engage in unwanted speech, it also doesn't have to subsidize your preferred speech. But that's a problem because if you remember the Supreme Court case that we got into over in Maryland, Mahmoud versus Taylor, the Supreme Court held 6-3 that a Maryland district burdened parents' free exercise of religion by refusing opt-outs from storybook instruction. My shadow is pink. Anybody remember that? Where kids were being asked to search and find the underwear and the whips, the lingerie, the lace panties. Disgusting. And this was required reading for those entering kindergarten. Mahmoud versus Taylor is the tiny crack in the schoolhouse door the NCLA is surely relying on. Free exercise is different from free speech, but not so different. The Lincoln case faces other problems like a Nebraska state constitutional provision that bars the state from providing funds to any non-government school, regardless of religious or ideological persuasion. So, tough legal sledding, he says. But I think this is extremely interesting. Enough parents are fed up with what is being forced onto their children within the four walls of these public school buildings. They are ready, willing, and able to file these lawsuits. And I think we'll see more like this one. Until common sense can prevail and they stop brainwashing our children at the schoolhouse door, you'll continue to see cases like this. My rights don't stop at the schoolhouse door. I don't co-parent with the government. I'm the mama. I call the shots. We got to take our last break. Y'all stay with us. We're going to be right back here to wrap things up on this Wednesday afternoon here on The Lindsey Beckham Show.
.1039 WYAB.
When it comes to protecting all the things that matter in your world, generations of folks in central Mississippi have trusted Allstate agent Mark Dwyron. Mark knows the right coverage with the right price, helps you feel secure and protected. For decades, Mark's been a trusted agent protecting you against mayhem that is unpredictable. And he's always just a moment away when you need him. Mark Dwyron. For auto, home, life, and more, you're in good hands with Allstate. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability.
Americans for Prosperity is Mississippi's and the country's leading grassroots organization dedicated to promoting economic freedom and personal liberty. Americans for Prosperity advocates for limited government, free market policies, and empowering individuals. When given freedom and opportunity, Americans are capable of extraordinary things. If you are ready to make a difference in our community and want to get involved, then visit AmericansForProsperity.org. Be a part of positive change at AmericansForProsperity.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
Your world is constantly growing and changing, and VSC Fire and Security makes sure it's protected. For 60 years running, they've been your trusted contractor for the inspection and installation of fire sprinkler, fire alarm, security, life safety, and integrated systems. VSC Fire and Security's Ridgeland office is now offering fire extinguisher and kitchen hood suppression, providing comprehensive solutions, outstanding design, efficient installation, reliable service, and repair. Contact VSC Fire and Security's Ridgeland office, formerly United Piping Incorporated, and get started today.
Upgrade your yard this season with Hometown Hardware and Grasshopper. Hometown Hardware in Flora is now a proud Grasshopper mower dealer. Own a Grasshopper, own Mow Day. Hometown Hardware also has a great selection of outdoor power equipment from trusted names like Steel and Milwaukee, as well as Hustler. And don't forget, Hometown Hardware is your garden soil, potting mix, fertilizer, and pine straw headquarters. Hometown Hardware on Highway 49 in Flora.
Detroit-style pizza has its own rules. We learned them, then we made it our own. Johnny's Pizza House is Detroit-style pizza. Deep pan crust, crispy edges, your choice of toppings, then finished with the pizza sauce swirled right on top. Mouthwatering cheesy goodness. Order online at johnnysph.com and build your own Detroit-style pizza. Detroit-style the Johnny's way. Order a taste of Detroit this summer. Johnny's Pizza House. Let's share a slice.
Who said you can have too much of a good thing? Not at Mazda of Jackson. With rates as low as 0% with approved credit. Come test drive the all-new, fully redesigned 2026 Mazda CX-5. That's more room for you and your cargo, making the third-generation CX-5 the best yet. Mazda's best-selling SUV also comes with 1-year maintenance included on your new vehicle purchase. Mazda of Jackson still specializes in certified pre-owned vehicles with hassle-free trade-in options available. Shop online at mazdaofjackson.com or visit Mazda of Jackson, I-55 Frontage Road.
The best investment on earth is earth. This is real estate agent Shane Saxton. As I like to say, the government can print more money, but they can't print more land. In the past 2 years, I've sold over $100 million in real estate. Call me today to get your land and home sold, because Saxton Sales isn't just a slogan. It's backed up by hundreds of satisfied clients just like you.
Find one of Mississippi's top real estate agents, Shane Saxton, on Facebook, or call Shane at 601-540-5040. Upper Property, 601-724-1435.
From Jacksontown to the radio, this is the Lindsey Beckham Show.
Welcome back into the final moments of the Lindsey Beckham Show today on this Wednesday afternoon. We were talking about this lawsuit over in Nebraska real quick. Florida spends less per pupil, and they don't just say tough to the parents when the parents disagree with the education their children are getting. And of course, we know Florida always ranks in the top when it comes to education across this country. They're obviously doing something right over there. We're going to discuss this more tomorrow, and I will be right back here, same time, same place. Hope everybody has a fabulous afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.